Tale by Luke Egan.
Woo! And this party's off the hook.
Yeah.
Henry was in charge of decorating the tree, a very important job, and not one he thought should be taken lightly. The tree was set in the bay window, and his mother had given him the box marked tree decks.
Shit, foreboding.
Yeah! The decks for the tree.
Okay?
Fuck you!
What's a tree?
Like decorations.
Decorations, yeah.
But
Decks
like,
is for decorations.
Gotcha.
You're sure, didn't it?
Yeah, because no one writes tree decorations on
I
the
was
box.
thinking it was like decking.
You've taken off like free. The hoods, is that short for decoration? The hoods.
What the shit?
Oh, my blown.
You're fucking welcome for this revelation. Go on, get on with it. This is painful enough already.
Oh yeah, story.
the box marked tree decks that now lay open at his feet, next to the small step ladder.
Because he's a baby.
Because he's a mouse.
No. He's just a young boy.
Okay. Henry rifled through the box, pausing now and then to greet the small familiar decorations one by one before hanging them on the artificial branches. Each of the trinkets had a story, and most of them had friends and family who they shouldn't be separated from, in Henry's opinion, especially at Christmas. Hello again, Mrs.
Alright,
Mouse.
can you stop laughing? Because I should tell you that Henry is literally me.
Oh,
so
God.
if that
About the decks.
Hello again, Mrs. Mouse, he said, retrieving a small, slightly
It's a
dusty
moment
knitted
you
mouse
never
from the
miss.
box. Where's Mr. Mouse this year? He paused to listen to the toy. Oh yeah, I forgot. Well, I hope he's in time for your famous Christmas dinner this year. He smiled and perched her on a branch, a good way up the tree so everyone could see her. He thought she deserved some attention, since Mr. Mouse had been away on business for so long. Well, you know, when Mr. Mouse is away.
Yeah, he's up down the street fucking the ferry.
Children's tale has been crafted.
Just because they're nice.
These
They
are
have to
my
be
head
mythical
cannons,
creatures
they're
moving
mine.
down the road.
It's not what I expect from knitting monthly.
He continued in this way for most of the morning, while his mum floated about the house, singing carols and covering everything she could see with tinsel. By the end of the day, they were both very tired, but the house glistened with Christmas spirit and the tree looked especially magnificent. Before bed, Henry and his mum sat on the sofa with a mug of hot chocolate each, admiring each other's handiwork. You did a good job on the tree, Mum said.
That's not how Mum talks!
You should have read it out then.
What are you doing to my masterpiece?
How does one talk?
Not like that.
Reader's
Can we get an idea of the
Please.
accents?
Please.
Henry
We're all
smiled
out of Yorkshire.
and looked over it. I couldn't find the fairy, he said. Or Mr. Mouse.
Yeah, that's the one reference I was allowed to keep in. The original one was like, oh, so Mr. Mouse is still fucking the fairy, eh? Oh, that's a shame. And then I sent it to
Didn't
Kate and she
speak
was like,
relationship.
dude. And I was like, I just thought it was funny.
That's not an enchanting children's tale.
Mum frowned. I'm sure they're in the box when we packed it last year, she said. They must have got lost during the move. Anyway, we'd better go to bed. We've got another busy day tomorrow. So they went to bed and left the new decorations to settle in their new temporary home on the tree. As soon as the house was quiet, Mrs. Mouse stretched her little arms and brushed the dust from her dress. She was always surprised at how cramped and dusty those boxes could get over the years. But it was refreshing to finally get out and have a chance to catch up with her friends. The tree rustled a little way above her head and she's trained to see who else had woken up. Hello! She called up through the branches, squinting to see who the fairy was. Is that you, Missy? Oh no, that was a different voice.
No, that was a different voice altogether.
Sorry.
Just so you know, I think it's the elf. He's like Texan.
Nice.
It's a very important part of the story that he must
Is
be
that
Texan.
you, Missy? A familiar cheerful voice replied.
I'll get some pizza.
I prefer...
Can I have some pizza too, please?
No, listen to my story.
I just want to eat pizza while doing it.
No pizza till story time's over.
Then bedtime.
If you get me a
We
pizza,
can all
get
have
me
a
a
bar.
plate to go with it. Why are you trying to
It wasn't a scene, it's story time.
The elf mouse laughed a
she's
high,
overtired.
tinkling laugh. You know as well as I do that this can't leave my head. Oh wait, I probably missed a bit. Oh, it's something to do with the hat. Okay.
Brush over about something to do with the hat. I don't know.
He laughed in reply. It's quite a long story. He laughed in reply and skipped over to hug her, lifting her off her feet and spinning her around briefly before setting her back down again, smiling. Mr. Mouse didn't hug her like that at all anymore.
So underlining news.
But before they had a
That
chance
wasn't
to...
actually a line in this.
Yeah, I didn't make that bit up. Sorry.
That was a joke.
Jake, can you pass me a cup? Oh, what?
Before they had a chance to catch up, a heavy rustling of branches was heard and a deep, jolly voice
What?
came from above.
Yeah.
Is the deep, jolly voice Santa?
That's mine!
Santa Mouse.
That's
so
my
yeah.
thing.
Okay,
I've
right.
had that before.
He's from Latvia.
I'm not doing a Latvian accent. Hey, Massey, quit stealing my workers. Sorry, I don't want to do Santa either.
Oh no, wait. Oh.
He's the only one I've got left.
They're not just all
Since
calling
the...
her Missy as in like, oh, hey there, Missy. Her name's Missy. She's
Oh.
Missy.
Named
the
after
Mouse.
Missy Elliott.
Mrs.
Got you.
I'd assume.
I've got left. He's the only one I've got left since the others were taken by the dog.
Is that some cutlery up in here?
There's fucking acrimony.
There was an elf massacre by the dog, obviously.
Okay.
Whoa. That's pretty dumb.
Mrs. Mouse and
I
the
don't
elf
feel
looked at
enchanted.
one another.
I don't know what you're expecting
Luke,
from
you
me.
should write a sequel just because I don't feel enchanted at all.
Sorry, Paul, carry on.
The branch swayed dangerously under his weight. They sat down and spent a few minutes catching up, but eventually Santa decided that he and his elf had to go work on the plans for their annual Christmas ball. Considering it's like Christmas morning, and they're just working on the plans for this.
Oh,
Who puts the tree up on Christmas Eve?
Purists. People that take Christmas seriously.
so not Henry. Obviously.
Henry's a mouse who does not take Christmas serious.
No, Henry's a little boy that put the Christmas
Henry's a
decorations
little boy
up.
who does not take Christmas serious.
Although he does.
Well, maybe
He's
he
all about
should.
decorating the
Although
tree.
he
Yeah.
doesn't take the Jesus
Direct
part
foundation
seriously.
of that
He
those
is.
characters.
He might do. You know, this might turn out into like some like
Jesus thing.
Jesus thing.
Can we just get this over with?
Henry's a Buddhist.
Anyway, yeah, they're working on their plans for the annual Christmas ball. After checking that Mrs. Mouse would help cater, as she usually did, what with being a woman and that being a woman's job,
I didn't want to break too many boundaries, ma'am.
they scampered back up to their branches and set about making lists and checking to make sure that they hadn't accidentally left anyone off the guest list. They checked it twice.
Oh.
The next few days flew by for Henry and his mum as they made sure the cupboards were full for the guests they'd invited. It was shaping up to be quite a Christmas in their new home, and they were both looking forward to seeing all their friends and relatives. Likewise, the nights were too short for Santa and the elf mouse, who had run into some trouble after someone had pointed out that there wasn't a fairy at the top of the tree this year. That wasn't implying anything.
I'll stop listening. I'm not going to lie. What happened?
No fairy at the top of the tree.
Yeah, they'd run into trouble, apparently. Don't know what
So
that's about.
is this fairy real? This is a real fairy.
Fairy like starts to see things because she's.
Wouldn't it be really painful to sit on top of the tree if it's a real fairy?
Anyway, it was unheard of for there not to be a fairy, or at least a star on top of the tree. They had to hold a committee meeting on who should be the new fairy. Is that the direction that the story's going in?
Guess who gets
Is it then going to be like the minutes from a from a committee meeting?
Yeah.
Apologies from Elf 3 and 4.
So do you have to sit on top of a tree if you're a fairy?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds quite painful.
Are they? Is the fairy
fairies are
democratically
like-
elected, or they just sort of like seize power?
No. The next line is about elections.
Is Missy going to hold a coup?
No.
Some of them worried that if they elected a new fairy, the humans would notice and they would be discovered.
Which is reasonable.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Fucking Christmas tree decorations switch their places. You're going to be like, what the fuck's going on here?
Maybe the humans just stop being so narrow-minded. I think maybe
They never
toys
seen
can
Toy
look after
Story.
themselves.
It took up a considerable amount of time that the busy mice didn't really have to spare. Mice, what did they do?
They'd have a party to plan!
Well, of course.
I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what's going on.
You've been watching
Why
the
did you-
video often.
I lost track quite a while ago.
Everyone
Already.
finally agreed that Mrs. Mouse deserved the job, as she would need a break after all her hard work.
Yes,
Balancing the problem with a Christmas tree.
Okay.
I think a party's hard whether you're a mouse or a human.
Yeah.
Is that the moral of the story?
The moral of the story: party planning is difficult.
There's quite a lot of. Where do I have to
respect
like,
you,
skip
Shale.
to get to the fight scene?
There's a party facing.
So the big day came and Henry waited impatiently all morning until Mum said he could finally open his presents.
Do you fucking mind?
Background music.
Which he did with great gusto and enthusiasm.
You're probably going to ruin this recording.
Luke, could you show me someone opening presents with gusto? Like, what does that look like?
I really
Great gusto and enthusiasm.
Okay, got this.
Have you never seen a child
Duh.
open a present on Christmas morning? That is great
With a
gusto
flourish of
and
jazz
enthusiasm.
Okay.
Leave me alone.
That's good. See, the one that doesn't get the gusto.
Doesn't. That's just a good sentence.
Henry's cousins arrived with their favourite toys. Aunt and uncle brought another present. Mum worked in the kitchen.
Now I definitely don't feel enchanted. You list events. It's like a Wikipedia summary.
Well, no one gives a shit about the humans party, do they? It's
They
all
really
about
don't.
the
Oh,
mice.
that's a good point.
Yeah.
It's all about the
Okay.
mice.
Humans had a party. Everyone left. They watched TV for a while before going to bed.
Hey.
That's when the real party began.
Oh, yeah.
Mice in the house.
Right, okay, so they're dancing and they're eating and they're having a
Mrs.
fucking
Mouse, the
party.
protagonist of this.
Mrs. Mouse kept her seat atop the tree and was soon joined by Mr. Mouse,
Oh,
who
Oh,
had finally come home from his travels, boasting about all the sales he's made.
Go! Sales!
He apologised for being so
Sales.
late, produced a tiny pendant with a small monkey opal in the centre. He said it was a gift from the fairy who he'd stopped off to visit on the way home. She was settling in well in her new home after eloping with the felt elf that Henry's mum had made last year. Mrs. Mouse was happy about this. And then they got drunk.